And YouTube, this is Team Dreadnaught here, bringing you a deck profile. BT16's out, which means it's time, even though the season's like almost over, it's time for some football. It's time for some Spike Brothers. Spike Brothers got a pretty good buff in BT16. A lot more power, a little bit more consistency, but not enough to where they just win outright every time. You still got to get the combo pieces. It's a little safer now to play than back when it was just BT10 Spike Brother cards. They could definitely use some more work, but obviously if they became any more consistent, they might be broken. So, start off. Your starter is still Mecha Trainer, best starter for Spike Brothers. He has Forerunner, and his effect is you can counterboss one, put him to the drop. Search your deck for any grade 1 or lower Spike Brother card, add it to your hand. I will show you the two things you are more than likely getting all the time. It's the only two things you'll get. You won't get the other two grade 1s I play in this deck. He's just a good, solid starter still. Archonro is not banned, so yay.
Should be.
Okay, should be. Heal Trigger, you can play Tiara if you want, the bad Heal Trigger. I play Cheer Girl Adalita, I think how you pronounce her name. This is the greatest Heal Trigger of all time. She will always be there when you need her. She tries her best to... She absolutely tries her best to forego her appearance, and she does it amazingly. If you ever need a Heal Trigger, she will come. It's just, I don't know if it's because of her art or whatever. People hate this card. There's like video montages of people ripping up every copy of this in the world.
I'm about to.
But is like the most consistent Heal Trigger I've ever seen, and I'm being sarcastic. I just play this one just because I love the look on people's faces when I check it. Because not only is it a Heal Trigger, it's this one. So now they're double like messed up.
And because if I was gonna rip it, he's gonna save them.
Yeah. Then I play, obviously, Spike Brothers has very little triggers. I play the only two criticals they have, which is Sonic Breaker, the vanilla, and Silent Joker. Silent Joker's effect is you can put him in Soul to unflip a damage. It becomes very crucial. Try not to guard with these if you can. Because the ability to unflip damage is very crucial in this deck, and I'll tell you why, because of one card that always counterblasts. This card is very crucial to have in your hand. Try not to guard with it as much as possible. It should also be one of the first things you Soul Blast with the cards you will see later that's Soul Blast. And then, yay, our new draw trigger. We don't have to play Cheerful Lynx anymore. This is a Cheer Girl Pauline. And very adorable. So you pay 4 draw. Obviously now because we have 2 draw triggers, you can play now more than 4. But I still choose to run the 4-4-8 trigger tactic. It works fine with me. A lot of people are now playing a little more draws now that there's the option. I just prefer playing 4-4-8. It's always worked for me, and I don't see any reason to change. Your results may vary. Play what obviously feels most comfortable to you. Going on to grade 1s. You have 4 Cheer Girl Marilyn, the Perfect Shield. I don't play Baron Amadeus, the Quintet Wall, because there's already enough things in this deck that Perfect Shield or that Counterblast, and I really don't want to mill important combo pieces off the top of the deck. Also, she's only like $2. There's no reason to not. She's like the same price as a Quintet Wall.
50 cents cheaper, actually.
Yeah. All right, now the card that you'll be counterblasting a lot is a brand new card. This is Machine Gun Gloria. This card is definitely something Spike Brothers needed in terms of draw power. Obviously, she's a little costly with the counterblast because you want to use the counterblast for something else later. But you don't really need to use that effect all the time, so we now have her to use up our counterblast. Her effect is at the end of the battle that she boosts a grade 1 or higher unit. You can counterblast 1, send that unit to the bottom of the deck, and then draw 1. You cannot do this with triggers, because obviously that might be too overpowered. But you can boost anything. Like say you have a Marilyn, too many Marilyns in your hand. You can attack for 13, counterblast 1, put Marilyn at the bottom, and then draw a card. It's a nice way of filtering out cards that you may not want to discard, and still have a nice draw power. It's also why you want to keep as many Silent Jokers in your hand.
Or if you have extra Frozen Ogres, you want to like make sure you damage something.
Yeah, or Frozen Ogres to keep them in the deck, because you want them as often in the deck as possible, and you'll know why when I get to his card. She's just a very, 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 very good card. She will be the second card you will look for all the time with Mecha Trainer. The other one is coming up a little later, and it's only because he has a little bit more utility. But if you already have that guy, you're looking for her, 100%. You play for her. She's just that good. And then, as a 3 of, we have High-Speed Bracky. Or not High-Speed Bracky, Reckless Express.
Essentially High-Speed Bracky.
Essentially High-Speed Bracky. He's a grade 1, 7,000. His effect is that whenever he attacks, you can Soul Blast 1 to give him plus 5,000, making him a 12. And then at the end of that battle, put him at the bottom of your deck and shuffle.
I don't know if he's hard.
Yeah, he might be a little hard to find nowadays because...
Calorie Box Deal's gone.
Yeah, because EB3 is now... has left us forever. He's still not that expensive, but if you want to play Spike Brothers, you should have at least 2 of them. You don't need to run 3. 2 is a good number. I would try to get at least 2. He's a very, very solid card. He's good in the early game if you have to ride a Frozen Ogre. So you can Soul Blast that Frozen Ogre immediately, so when you Legion, you can put it back in the deck. Because you want all 3, you want 3 or 2 Frozen Ogres in your deck when you get to the primary combo, which I'll get to later. He's just a nice solid card. He's still a 7k booster. And a fun fact with Gloria, because both their effects will happen at the same time, because at the end of the battle, if you Soul Blast 1 for this and make this at 19 column, you can Counter Blast with Gloria before he goes to the bottom. So you can still draw a card. And now, the number 1 card you'll be looking with Mecha Trainer is Commander Gary Gannon. He is essentially just Spike Brothers Airmo clone. Whenever he boosts a unit, if that unit's attack hits a Vanguard, you can choose 1 card in your hand and discard it, and then draw a card. It's just a... Or yeah, whenever it hits, I'm sorry. It's just a typical Airmo clone. Whenever the boosted unit's attack hits anything, you can draw a card. It's very solid. You put it behind your Vanguard early game, because if you have any grade 2 in your deck with this, boosted by this, will always be a 14 or higher, meaning that unless your opponent is on a 10k Vanguard, 10k or higher Vanguard, they will still need a 10k to 1-pass it, which is very crucial in today's meta, especially with Spike Brothers, because you want to be able to pile on damage. Just a good solid unit. You're primarily going to be discarding Draw Triggers, extra copies of Frozen Ogre, so you can put it back in the deck when you Legion. Extra grade 3s you might have. Just a nice typical solid card. Extra Glorias. Whatever you have in your hand that you don't need at the moment.
The second one of him.
Another one of him, yeah. Alright, on to grade 2s, another new card. We have Silver Blaze. He is basically just a better high-speed Bracky, but a little more limited. His effect is, whenever this unit attacks, you can Soul Blast 1 to give him plus 10,000, and then at the end of the battle, he goes to the bottom of the deck. And his ability can only be used if your Vanguard's in Legion, so that's where the limitation comes in. He gets an extra 5,000 as opposed to Bracky, which we will get to in a second. But he can only be used when Legioned. So whenever your Vanguard's in Legion, you attack Soul Blast 1, he's at 19 by himself, and then at the end of the turn, he goes to the bottom and you shuffle. You don't need to play 4 of them. Some people play 2. I just play 3 just so in case I have to ride them, I know I have a couple in the deck in case one gets damaged along the way or it's in my hand. Just a nice solid card. And he is the only Spike Brother card to come SP in 2 sets. Because there was no Spike Brother SPs in set 10, and he's the only, other than Emerald Blaze. But no one plays Emerald Blaze. And then we have 2 high-speed Brackies. He's the same effect as Silver Blaze, but he doesn't require Legion, and he only gets 5,000 instead of 10,000. Same cost, same everything. He's a 14 whenever he attacks, and at the end of the battle that used the effect, put him at the bottom of the deck and shuffle. You play Bracky still, just as a 2 of, because the same reason you play Express. Soul Blasting Frozen Ogres you may have had to ride. Soul Blasting Silent Jokers, which you may have had to use early to mitigate Counterblast used from Gloria. And just because a 14k with Gloria is a 21, which is really hard hitting to Vanguards in the early game, because you want to put on you want to get your opponent to around 3 damage minimum before you go off. If they're at 2 or lower, their chances of surviving are very high. At 3 damage is the threshold. Once they're at 3 damage, you have a pretty high chance of ending them with the big Crush Rush combo. If they're at 4, you're usually getting it. If they're at 5, you should never fail. Unless they have all 4 perfect cards in hand. And even then, they still need like 14 cards in hand. But regardless, other 2 grade 2s is Jumbo the Stun Gun, another new card, and a very good one. Don't be confused by the 8,000 power and think he's just bad because he's not that good. You only really need 1. I play 2 just in case the bad happens and he's in my hand or in my damage. Because you always want at least 1 in deck, so just have a redundant copy. His effect is whenever he's called from the deck during the combat phase, you can unflip 1 damage and then soul charge 1. The soul charge 1 isn't that important, it's the unflipping that matters. And I'll show you why when I get to Frozen Ogre later in, when I get to the Legion pair. It basically turns Frozen Ogre into a free unit, and with the Wombo combo and everything, with Bad End Dragger and Frozen Ogre, you just keep getting power, so the 8k doesn't matter as much. Because even if you just have Bad End, he's still going to be an 18. That's still a 10k even against cross rides. And that's what you want. 18 is still the bare minimum you want on a rearguard attack. Just a good solid unit. Always play at least 1. I play 2 just for redundancy in case it gets damage checked or it's in my hand because it has to be called from the deck. And then to round out the grade 2s that I'm showing for now is 1 Dudley Mason. This could be anything. You could also run Fierce Leader Zachary or Blow Kiss Machine Gun Olivia. I just run him because he's a little more techy. He's basically my pseudo insurance policy in case my opponent is able to live my Crush Rush for the early game of it and they're still at 4 damage. Because then I get his attack with this, and now they have a really, really, really terrible situation on their hands. Because if they're at 4 damage and they don't want to discard cards, they let this thing hit, I just call another unit to attack. If I'm ever finding myself... Other than that, he's just a simple 9k.
If you ride him, it's not bad.
Yeah, if you ride him, he's pretty good. His effect is, whenever his attack hits the Vanguard, you can counterblast 1, choose 1 card in your hand, put it in the soul, search your deck for any Spike Brother card and call it. Just a very nice, decent, solid unit. Again, this could really be anything. So, I just play Mason.
Gloria.
Alright, on to grade 3s now. Or the 1 grade 3 doesn't have a thing. And that is Bad End Dragger. This is the Break Ride for Spike Brothers. His effect is that when you Break Ride over it, choose your Vanguard, he gets plus 10,000, and he also gets the effect... for the rest of the turn, all of your rear guards in the front row, for the rest of the turn, gain plus 10,000. And then at the end of the turn that they battle, at the end of the battle that they attack in, they go to the bottom of the deck. They don't have to shuffle, just go to the bottom. So basically your Vanguard gets plus 10,000, your 2 rear guards in the front get plus 10,000. So you just have all this power going along, and the thing about it is that that effect of gaining 10,000 for the rear guards still occurs if their rear guard changes. If you use Mason, attack with 19, if it hits and you call another rear guard to the front, that rear guard will also get 10,000. So, really, really, really powerful effect. Obviously, you're building towards this giant, amazing rush that just has a bunch of attacks at very high power levels to the point where your opponent can't guard it effectively. And then his other effect, other than Lord, is that whenever he is boosted by a Spike Brother, he gains plus 2. So with Commander Ganon, he is a 19. With Olivia, he is a 20. If you were to play Wonder Boy, the 8K vanilla, it would be a 21. So yeah. Very, very, very powerful card. Probably one of the best break rides in the game.
Probably the only still playable burger in the game.
One of the few. And now going on to the Legion pair, we have 4 of each, and they are all paired up. But we'll just keep.
Nope. Left.
Yeah, we'll keep one pair. We'll keep one pair next to each other, just so I can explain their effects. This is Frozen Ogre and Bloody Ogre. Frozen Ogre, the grade 2.
A lot of buddy fight lately, guys.
Yeah. The grade 2's effect is, as long as your Vanguard, or you can only use this effect of the turn your Vanguard performs Legion. So it's not while it's in Legion, only the turn it performs Legion. His effect is, at the end of the battle that he attacks, anything. Counterblast 1, send him to Soul, search your deck for any card and call it. Which means... Okay, no, whenever it attacks the Vanguard, I'm sorry. I thought it was a Skydiver card for a second. But it's not. Whenever it attacks the Vanguard, you can counterblast 1, put it in Soul, and then search your deck for any card and call it, including himself. Sounds pretty strong. Basically, this is why you want 2 in the deck at all times. You call 1, have 1 on Vanguard, and then 2 in the deck. So you have 1 attack, 2 attack, 3 attack of, if you break ride, 19. So for 2, and then also why you want to play Jumbo the Stun Gun. Because you can call Jumbo with this, it's an 18, and you also get rid of the counterblast cost for the last Ogre.
It's actually 23 if you perform Legion this turn.
Right, but now, because you have to perform Legion, here's what the Legionnaire does. This is Bloody Ogre. His effect is the turn you perform Legion, all your rear guards in the front row gain plus 5,000. At the end of the battle that they attack anything, put them to the bottom of the deck. So now, if you break ride with that Enddragger, now your 2 units in the front row gain plus 15, not 10. So now he is a 24 by himself. Let that sink in. All the rear guards and Spike Brothers gain plus 15. Now, if the camera guy would zoom out a little. This is basically the Crush Rush formation.
Oh shit, I'm dying. Where's my phone? Oh.
You break ride, you have a hand. Oh, I forgot. His other effect is that whenever he attacks, you can counterblast 2 and choose a card in your hand that shares the same name as something on Vanguard to call anything from your deck. So this is basically the field you want to be looking for with 2 of these in deck. If you break ride and perform Legion, you go, okay, attack your Vanguard 24. Alright, put him in Soul, counterblast 1, call another one. Attack, alright, counterblast 1, put him in Soul, call another one. Attack, counterblast 1, put him in Soul, call a Stun Gun. Now you unflip 1 and Soul Charge 1. So now you've used 2 counterblasts so far, which you have to have 3 obviously, 2 counterblasts. So if you have 2 more counterblasts, if you are able to attack with your Vanguard and you have another Bloody Ogre in your hand, you can call another unit. So let's say you go, okay, attack 23 now, because remember, they still gain the plus 15 because they're in the front row. So he goes to the bottom now, and if you attack and you're able to put another one in Soul, you go, okay, call another Silver Blaze. So now, before Vanguard attacks, or while Vanguard's attacking, you still have a drive check to do, 2 drive checks to do, don't forget. You've already attacked 4 times. You've already attacked your Vanguard 4 times. 24, 24, 24, 23. This is a 36 because of Break Ride. These are 41s with a Soul Blast. That is the true power of this deck. Your opponent needs over 100,000 guard to guard us effectively. So, hope you guys enjoy the deck profile and are able to learn a little bit from this. Remember to comment, like, subscribe, visit our Facebook and Twitter page, and we're going to see you guys later with more deck profiles.